Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt in Studio West. Jim Talent, former United States Senator from Missouri, is going to spend a little bit extra time with me today because I got a lot to cover with you, Senator. I want to start with you're a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General. A couple of weeks ago, she said to the FBI in New York, I want the Epstein Files. And they sent her a few hundred pages. She said, is this all there is? And they said, this is all there is. And then she got a whistleblower saying, actually, we got a lot more than that. So she sends a letter to Kash Patel today saying, by tomorrow, I want those files. Someone's going to have a writer truck, I guess, back up and get those files. And in 2 weeks, I want to report on why I got stiffed. Good for her. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm one of the few people who's never followed the whole Epstein thing very closely, but I think I'm going to after this because I'm just wondering why they don't want to turn over those papers. Now, obviously, from a standpoint, it's just another example of how the Bureau, at least the upper levels of the Bureau, have gone rogue. I mean, it's her decision, as you know, she has the authority. She wants the files. And by the way, if I was in the administration's position, I would want to see those files too, because of the incredible amount of suspicious activity. I mean, the man kills himself before he can be prosecuted, and the TV cameras just happened to be off that day. So now it's another example of the Bureau thinking it's a law unto itself.
You know, Senator, I checked with Dwayne. I've never talked about the Epstein files in 25 years. I think he's a dirtbag. I think he did dirtbaggy things. But the fact that someone's on his plane, you know the presumption of innocence. It's not dispositive of anything. Somebody might have wanted to go to his island and had no idea what was going on there. So that's not of interest to me. What's of interest to me is a rogue agency. And I mean, she's the Attorney General of the United States. I mean, my gosh, you don't get to say
I
no.
think they're interested in this. Yeah, I think the administration is interested in this probably for the same reason it's releasing everything it has on JFK, because there are all these conspiracy theories circulating out there. I don't think the JFK papers are going to change the historical consensus very much. And I doubt the release of this information, with, of course, victims' names and identifying information redacted, I doubt it's going to change much either. But that's good because it will put to rest all these claims based on, incidents and aspects of the case that are suspicious. So let's find out. That's what she wants to do. And in any event, it's her decision. It's not
If
the
in
decision
14
of
days,
the.
if Kash Patel provides a report in 14 days, says Agent B and Agent C decided that you didn't need to see these things, what happens to Agent B and Agent C?
If they willfully refuse to obey with what the Attorney General tells them to do, they have to be fired.
They have to be fired.
You can't. Yeah, I don't. This is being treated today as if that's something extraordinary. I mean, this is the highest level of political authorities next to the president in the United States. And if she gives an order, it has to be obeyed. I mean,
A guy who you might know, I'm not going to mention him, he's concerned because he's an old DOJ vet and a veteran of the Reagan years, a good friend of mine. He's concerned that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are wrecking ball. Well, he and I both thought Christopher Wray would get control of the place, and he didn't. So I guess I'm for wrecking balls now.
Well, I liked the list that Victor Hansen gave you the other day when he was on the show of the lies of the last, what was it, 4 FBI or Bureau directors.
Yep.
Lying to the Congress, lying to the public. I mean, they have a credibility problem, and the truth. I mean, I'm a big believer that this administration needs to seek the truth and needs to err on the side of transparency regarding the truth it finds. And that's the only way we're going to get back the kind of credibility that the Bureau needs. You and I are both friends of the Bureau. I was always a very strong supporter of the FBI. I began to be very disenchanted when Comey did not prosecute Hillary Clinton. I wrote a column about it, and it was pretty sympathetic to him, actually. But I said, I greatly fear that what he's going to do is convince people there aren't honest men left in the government of the United States. And that
Yeah,
was
there
10
was a
years
story
ago,
in the
Hugh.
Washington Times yesterday, and I put that down as a story in the Washington Times, that Comey ran a honeypot operation against the Trump campaign. And that, of course, a classic weapon of espionage to use women to seduce insiders and learn things. And that was off
Sure.
the books. I don't know if it's true. The Washington, it's apparently been around, but it's surfaced again. Just indulge me for a second. If that's true, I think they have to prosecute Comey.
Yeah, I mean, they have to take whatever action against him that the law demands. And look, if you're a career agent in the bureau, and there's many good ones, you absolutely should want this to be done. I mean, they need the cooperation and the confidence of the American people, which means they have to get the politics out of the agency. They have to get these hijinks out of the agency. And we may need to do something, and Andy McCarthy's talked about this a long time, to separate, to take away from them the domestic intelligence portfolio and create a new agency for that, and then just have them be a criminal justice agency. And Andy may be right that the problems all began when we expanded their mandate to cover domestic intelligence collection,
Well,
because they were never an intelligence agency.
that's when I actually had my only experience with him, is when I was working for Smith and Meese, and there was an agent on the fifth floor who would provide us with FISA warrants, and I would review them, and the attorney general would sign them, and they'd go to the court, and they'd get approved. And the FISA stuff is so instrumental to the safety of the United States, and they were so professional. I'm still aghast at Stroke and Page and McCabe and Comey. I just can't believe what happened. I still see Judge Webster every now and then, 100 years old, still around town, still good to see him. I'm going to go to break, and I'm going to talk with Senator Talent during the break about DOGE, and then we're going to come back and talk about Ukraine and whether or not we're going to have a happy ending there, because I think we are going to have a happy ending there. But during the break, got to talk to him about DOGE. I'm an enthusiast of DOGE. Our friends over at the Commentary Pod are much more skeptical, but I want to find out what Jim Talent thinks. And reconciliation. I do this all in 8 minutes. I'm back with Senator Talent. Senator, yesterday I had on Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, and he tried to pull a stunt on me, but I happened to have been doing some reading. He said, well, the planes are in danger of dropping out of the sky because of DOGE. And I said, wait a minute. There are 45,000 employees at the FAA. They laid off 143, none of them in critical path. And he gave up the ghost and went away. I don't know what to think about DOGE, but I know the federal government pretty well, and there's a lot that can go away without anything getting hurt. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, there's absolutely no question. And look, our friends on the other side of the aisle, and I'm like you, I have a lot of friends on the other side of the aisle. They're big believers in government. You'd think that they would want to help us in reforming government, at least to the extent of getting out what everybody who looks at it agrees is waste, fraud, and abuse. Because again, if you're the party that's sympathetic to government, you want government to have the confidence and credibility, with the people. So yeah, and then the other point that you've made and I make, both on the pod with Dwayne and otherwise, if we're going to ask the American people to trust us to enact the kind of reforms we need in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, we're going to have to show to them that we have done our level best to get the absolute waste, the fraud out of the government. Now, you and I know we're not going to balance the budget doing that.
No, but I do. There are little
chunk of
things.
money.
I'm in Medicare now, and I remember this from when my dad was on Medicare. And God bless Medicare, it covers everybody. It's single payer for a 62-year-old or 65-year-old. But I get hundreds of "this is not a bill" paper filings every day. This is not a bill. Do you get those? Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, periodically. And as you know, there's no transparency in pricing in the healthcare system. Romney was really big on that issue. So if you don't know what things cost, then you can't have a competitive market that holds down costs. If you ever had Paul Ryan on, I mean, he did so much good work in this area. There's a lot we can do
Oh
to
my
save
goodness!
money in the
Congress.
without cutting quality. Yeah, without cutting quality or access. But the people have to trust us. And they're not going to
You're
trust
right.
us if we're
You're
sitting
driving
there.
that point, and you're right. Stand by. We're coming back on air for reconciliation talk. That's a threat, people. I'm back with Jim Talent, and I don't have a lot of time, Jim, but here's the deal. The House passed a budget. I didn't think it was possible. They passed by one vote. Why doesn't the Senate just rubber stamp that? Because if they change it, they won't hold it together.
Okay, so very briefly, everybody is in agreement that the bottleneck, and this is unusual in Washington, is the House and not the Senate. In other words, that we have to follow the process that makes it most likely to be able to pass everything eventually in the House. But they very strongly disagree on which process is most likely to produce that. So the senators think you get a success early, success builds on success, then you can focus on the tax and revenue raising and budget provisions. They don't think it's going to be any easier to pass that just because we try and sweeten it up with border or military or energy. And I think they're probably right. If I was looking at this in the abstract, I would tend to agree with the Senate. But here's what the Senate's not doing, it seems to me. They ought to give some deference to the judgment of the people who actually run the House. In other words, Johnson and Scalise and
Emmer.
Ways and Means Chairman Emmert and Jason Smith, they've been managing this crew for some time now. And so I guess I would be inclined, if I was Thune and the others, is to say, okay, it's your body, it's not mine. In other words, it's your house. If this is the way you think, we'll try and do it. But boy, are we skeptical. And it's a tough one, you. The reason people I respect are split on this and feel very strongly about it is it's not an easy call. I mean, just trust me on that. The process stuff, the policy may end up being easier than the process.
But
it's
explain
difficult.
one thing to me in our minute left. The House passes something by one vote. They've done the delicate compromise. If the Senate changes anything, it's like Jumanji. It's like a game of pickup sticks. Do you want to bring it all down?
Let me just introduce one issue here, which is it may be the case that not everything that's in the House bill is reconciliation worthy. And so it may be subject to a Byrd rule. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it is. So they may not be able to pass exactly what the House passes. This is an arcane and difficult process. And they're trying to get it done. They have a decent majority in the Senate, and they're trying to get it done in a way that can hold the House together. It's tough, Hugh. I mean, I was a legislative leader in the Missouri House of Representatives. Our rules were a lot easier. I never wanted to be a leader in the Congress because I was a committee chairman. These tactical questions are difficult, and there's a reason why very strong people are on both sides of it.
I think Thune, Barrasso, and Cotton are very smart. That's the leadership in the Senate. But I think they got a baked cake, and they are going to try and rebake it. I don't know about that. We'll see. Jim Talent, we'll do Ukraine next week. Always a pleasure. Thanks for the extra time today. And if you want more, Jim is on with Dwayne on Dwayne's World at length. If you go to dwayne.world, you can get that podcast. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Harley. Thank you, John Alicia.